Charles, whoever it was that says, may you live in interesting times, I think this is it right now. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you very much. And I was supposed to be in Bali this morning, but yesterday when I went to the airport, I've never had a plane canceled on me due to volcanic activity, but I don't know if I'm now going to be able to go either to Bali or to the next place where I was going to go. So I'm here in Penang.
Yeah. Hey, listen, life is rough. Not everybody can get it over to Bali. But I wonder if most people even know about this eruption. When I saw it, I thought it was the Big Lebowski that was erupting, but it's Luotobi volcano.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have another child and name my child Luotobi Ortel. But anyway.
Yeah, and also, Charles, we can have a Rorschach test. If people see Trump in this cloud, that means he's going to bomb Iran.
That is pretty funny. Yeah, actually, well, the poster's great, the title's great, the topic's very interesting, but I just want to remind people that in addition to the Iran story, there's a massive story that the FBI is now saying that China, that it under Wray knew that China, whistleblowers come forward, that knew that China was actually interfering in the 2020 election, but they're not putting the second piece of that puzzle together. The Biden family was being paid by China.
Yeah.
Right? So,
right.
I mean, now you have, in the case of Hillary Clinton and uranium and all that, you don't have as direct a link between Quid and Pro and Joe. I mean, here we have the undemocratic party rigging the 16 election with Hillary, losing, trying it again, and in quotes, winning in 2020. This is a massive story. This is our FBI saying that Biden's FBI, Trump's FBI actually at the time, rigged, knew that China was interfering in the 2020 election and obstructed revelation of that before the general public, before the election. That's outrageous. That's Trump's FBI director.
I agree. It's outrageous, Charles, but I'm just wondering why they haven't done anything to the people. Like, where are these driver's licenses? They gave it to Chuck Grassley. I mean, what the hell is he going to do with it? Right. By the way, I don't know if you saw this follow-up story here from the Washington Times. This is explosive. Apparently, Elon Musk asked Ashley St. Clair not to circumcise his Jewish child. I don't disagree with that. I find circumcision brutal and barbaric, but we don't need to talk about Elon Musk's kid's penis. That's a topic for another day.
You do it every time, Jason. I'm squeamish. Oh, when you cut open a dead body, this is what it looks like. It'll last. Yeah. Jesus, Jason.
No, we're talking about cutting off arms is what we were talking about that time. This is way worse.
I know. May I remind you that it's 8:00 in the morning my time. I'm barely on my first cup of coffee.
But seriously, Charles, this FBI story about China making fake driver's licenses, there's so much evidence that there was interference, and there's lots of people who have been, jammed up in the courts. I hate it when people, particularly stupid people, are like, oh, all this Trump stuff went to court and the courts decided this and that. People who say that, I don't think have spent very much time in court, because there's tons of completely unjust and unjustified, unfounded, lots of nonsense and shenanigans going down in court. So much so, in fact, I think that the corruption of the courts and the judicial system in the United States is the absolutely biggest problem that we're facing. But the more pressing in terms of time is this whole deal with Iran. I got to be honest, Charles, I'm very concerned. It's got the next 20-year quagmire kind of written all over it.
Yeah, I was watching, I don't know the name of it, but I was watching a video of somebody who seemed to know what was going on. And it strikes me, I could eat my words here, and nobody outside, nobody in the Situation Room in the White House really knows what's going on in the ground in Iran. But what I have heard is the following: that first, 3 planes left Iran, presidential planes, reputedly carrying senior people other than Khamenei. Second, the Khamenei is no longer in control of the country. He ceded control to the Revolutionary Guard. Third, army and other units are defecting, apparently, to this Reza Pahlavi. Fourth, the internet is down across Iran. Fifth,
Yeah, I saw that.
Iranian
And
airspace
electricity.
and Iranian airspace is all under the control of Israel. Sixth, that Mossad is very active inside Iran. Seventh, a large number of the formerly rabid dog leaders of this thugocracy are dead. So it could be. Nobody wants this type of. Even people rooting for the, getting rid of the mullahs don't want complete chaos and anarchy in a country of 90 million people. I mean, that borders other hotspots around the world. So this is clearly very dangerous ground. Yeah. On the other hand, it could be, Trump may get very lucky here, because Saudi Arabia has long been Saudi Arabia has historically regarded the Shia-led the Shia religion as its dread enemy. It's a worse schism than, let's say, Protestants and Catholics. I mean, it's really either both sides, religious sides, tend to view the other as illegitimate. And so if this Shia-led thugocracy falls, the next challenge is, can there be, it's not up to us, should they have a monarchy, should they not have a monarchy? I don't particularly want to see a monarchy in Iran or anywhere. But the next dangerous phase is, can they go through and actually have elections and heal the wounds that have been festering now for 46 years in that country, or longer if you go back to Mossadegh. So can they do that? That's a huge ask. It wasn't possible to do it in Afghanistan, which is now truly gone. I don't know if it ever comes back. This could be a temporary victory that's followed by an even more autocratic and Shia-led thugocracy. If the experiment after these guys go, if that fails, so we're clearly on dangerous ground. But I smell a chance that this could succeed for Trump. And if you go down the pathway of this succeeding, Trump will go from strength to strength here. I mean, Russia apparently, he publicly said that he told Putin he doesn't need his help mediating on this one. Why don't you focus on sorting out Ukraine, which is kind of a baller move. I am the biggest dog in town, Vladdy.
Wow.
So it may be that he gets that this comes together for him. And if it does come together for him, I remember actually the same sort of chatter. It happened that I was leaving. I left Dillon Reed on January 31st. I was negotiating the contract that I got in the Four Seasons bar. As the TVs were on there in the bar, and as the bombs dropped. So it was for me, it was a very poignant and dangerous moment, because we had, until the victory in 1990, the quote victory in 1991, the United States was still licking open wounds from the Vietnam saga and the aftermath of that. So most of us, myself included, doubted. I told people at the time, before, after August 1st, I said, the stock market should either be a lot lower or a lot higher. A lot lower if we went into worse than a quagmire, and a lot higher if we were vindicated. And as it turned out, I left the country, I think, on January 31st, or maybe February 1st or thereabouts, flew across to California and Hawaii, and I spent the 2 months from roughly February 1, a month in Hawaii and a month skiing in Aspen. And in the course of that period, we went from what the hell's going to happen next to George Bush at a 90% approval rating, 90, which he held for a period of time until he fucked up his presidency by lying. HW. So Trump here is playing. He's playing at the not at the Titanium Club level. He's playing at whatever is more valuable than that. I mean,
Triple Diamond Club.
Right, betting, we'll put $1 quadrillion on this and 10 quadrillion on that, and who knows if he does get through this, he will have enormous power with the electorate. His approval rating will soar, and he will get a lot done. If this goes the wrong way, and there are a lot of people who would like to see it go the wrong way, he could be out.
Yeah.
You know,
it's high stakes for sure. He's in the Telly Savalas Players International Club. Sure, he gets VIP treatment, but you can too. You remember those commercials? Cruise ships, baby. 60% off rooms. Well, no, joking aside, I mean, it's a big deal, but also I was thinking about something, Charles. All this stuff about, we're going to bomb Iran so they don't get a nuclear weapon. I mean, isn't that stupid? Because I saw a thing where Putin was giving some speech. He was at some kind of, I don't know, some kind of international meeting.
St. Petersburg. He was in St. Petersburg on.
Yeah. But he was saying like, our relationship with Iran is even stronger now. I mean, couldn't Russia just give them nuclear something or other if they wanted them to have it? Like, why is it 3 years? We hear they have these suitcase nukes and all kinds of, it's just, I don't know. It just seems like more bullshit that they're weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, nukes in Iran. They just want to blow it up, really, don't they?
No, I think, Russia has seen, I think, counting the former Soviet Union, has seen many more victims of Islamic radical terror than the United States has over the course of its existence. So they have a lot to worry about, and they have a gigantic, I guess their border's longer than ours. So they have a lot to worry about here. Russia, I mean, clearly the thugocracy, and when I would argue on, I was on the Tehran Times, I was on various Iranian-controlled TV shows where I would take the opposite position of the regime, and they would let me debate it. It was pretty amazing. But, what they would say is that the economy is in the tank in Iran because of sanctions. Well, Russia's a counterexample. Russia's been under sanctions, and it's doing pretty well. So, and sanctions really never work. Look at Cuba. So if Iran could go to a truly secular governance model, if that could happen, that country could really flourish. And as one of its principal trading partners, Russia, I think Russia would benefit from that enormously. So, when you look at this, if you're sitting there, the people in everything Trump says is wrong mode lose their credibility. In the same way, I passionately loathe the Clintons and the Obamas, but there has to be something that each of them has done correctly. In Trump's case, I mean, I'm a numbers guy, and I keep bringing that up, but one little thing that has happened is that the murder rate is plummeted. The immigration scene has changed radically, and most importantly, wages for the working class in the United States have risen for the first time. The last time this happened was Trump, in Trump's previous administration, but they're already rising. That's a big deal. I mean, Elizabeth Warren is sitting there with her ridiculous attempts to dress down a crazy Hirono in the Senate, to dress down Pete Hegseth. The two of them live in mansions, fly private, only hang around with very rich people. The only working people they know are fixing their sinks, probably. And, everything that comes up, Trump is wrong, this is a disaster. Where were they under Biden? Why weren't they criticizing the open borders policy? Why weren't they criticizing our failing schools? There's a lot you could criticize every day and every moment of the day. But in what Trump is doing here against, uniform opposition in legacy media, right? Where are the opposing points of view? The people who say, you could criticize. Yes, it's dangerous, but what if Trump's right? That's the kind of stuff you used to see in the New York Times 50, 60 years ago. You would see, people have the left-leaning position, but they let people in to make the counter argument, and that's life. There are two sides to every story here.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. It's dangerous. I'm not saying this is an easy thing to do. I also think that we're very close to a point where if we did want to actually engage in offensive military capability, I mean, dropping Moabs into a country as big as Iran, how close is that to the point where Congress does need to at least have hearings on it, and where the House of Representatives faces the choice, do we or do we not declare war? I mean, that's a legitimate question for Trump. I like to see the Trump team answer that question. Maybe there's a very good answer. But, it is fair for people to debate that, but it's ridiculous. This Dick Durbin is really, he's an ass clown. I guess he's got credentials and this and that. He's in pushing 80 or whatever. But they were holding a hearing in the Senate to examine exactly when Biden lost his competence and why he wasn't yanked under the 25th Amendment. The Democrats, as usual, gave their theatrical opening statements and all left the hearing. I mean, this isn't seventh grade.
Led by Penis Durbin.
Yeah, exactly. Is he uncircumcised, or circumcised? But anyway, the thing is, this isn't a student body meeting, right? This is a serious question. They treat it like that, though. No, the question of how a mentally deranged man. I mean, Biden wasn't just like, Grandpa, your underwear, you're wearing your underwear on your head. I mean, he was way out there. He was giving statements on, in TV appearances that made absolutely no sense. They were gibberish. He would call for peace and comity and then accuse Trump supporters of being Nazis on television. Remember when he said that?
And then he would say, "God save the Queen, man," and walk away.
Yeah,
it's like, what?
I mean, the guy was clear. I mean, we could tell it. Many people could. The man was somebody you wouldn't let near an open flame in a kitchen, right? He was very dangerous, and it is reasonable now, particularly with a president who just turned 80 or 79 or whatever he is. It's reasonable to ask, at what point does the cabinet have an obligation to openly discuss and maybe invoke the 25th Amendment? In the case of Biden, he should not have been allowed to be sworn in, right? He was mentally unfit. Everybody saw it in the first debate, where who obliterated him? Kamala Harris obliterated him, right? She can't even read that book. What is that book? See Spot Run. No, Dick and Jane or whatever. See Spot Run, Jump Spot. I mean, she couldn't get through a book at that level. And she obliterated him in the first debate, and the Dems went ahead and said, you know what, let's just stop this bullshit and just put Biden in. How many of the Dems were being paid by the Chinese, is my question.
Yeah. But I think it's a part of a long-standing, there's a lot of evidence that there are people in Washington, D.C. who want a completely incompetent executive so that they can take over the autopen. I mean, that's what James Comer was talking about today, is that they now have found basically sort of 3 different Joe Biden autopen signatures that are repeated again and again. And, they're trying to figure out who was doing that, but they just had a little demonstration here on this Will, whatever his name is,
Kane.
Yeah, Will Kane, showing the different autopen. When you overlay things like this, you cannot get a pixel for pixel match of a legitimate signature like that. That is definitely a reproduced, mechanically or digitally reproduced signature, to have them all line up like that. And it's a very serious concern. He was signing all kinds of things. I heard a thing with James Comer today saying that the only one that appears to be actually signed by Biden is the pardon of Hunter. I mean, that's outrageous.
It is. It is indeed. But back on Iran, a lot will happen tonight. As a guess, the Trump team is playing for the hope that they can get through Friday, because Friday is, of course, the day where any remaining radicals will try to whip up, crowds at mosques. But, maybe it's not going to be possible to have those type of demonstrations on Friday. And what they may be hoping for is a resolution of this like now. which would be something. I mean, if Khomeini and his successors give up the fight, I mean, think of all the people, from Tucker and others who, were touting their decades of experience in the Middle East and their inside knowledge of Iran, and, this and that. If this is just a wipeout of the entrenched thugs, then other regimes around the world are going to say, "No, wait a minute. Did you see what happened to our brothers over there in Iran?" So, and if on the other hand, somehow rogue elements managed to take out, Bahrain, our base in Bahrain, and we've got many bases, Qatar, as I think they pronounce it appropriately. And in Kuwait, I think there's 7 military bases. I mean, I've been to Kuwait a number of times. It's not a very big place. Why do you need 7 military bases? But why do we need 7 military bases there? Anyway.
I don't know. Charles, did you see this thing here with Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz? It was pretty bad for Ted Cruz, I thought.
Yeah, Cruz is, Dershowitz says he's one of the best law students he's ever had.
Dershowitz is a jackass, though.
Right, but Dershowitz, not Dershowitz, but Cruz is, when it comes to the law, he's pretty smart. But he was definitely, as my kids used to say, P-owned, or personally owned by Tucker. Yeah, I mean, it was brutal.
It was. And, the other thing, he was like, oh, they got to bickering almost. And he said, oh, what are you going to say now? 9/11 was an inside job. I was like, oh, my God, does Ted Cruz actually believe that 19 guys who couldn't operate Cessnas did the most impossibly, physically impossible aerobatic feats with jetliners traveling at speeds that they cannot travel at one atmosphere? I mean, for Ted Cruz to have said that, he exposed himself as an absolute idiot, not to mention that simple facts about Iran, which I don't claim to know, but I'm not in the Senate, I'm not an expert on Iran, and I'm not advocating for the destruction of anything right now. So it was pretty bad for Ted Cruz, and it just, setting aside Ted Cruz personally, it just speaks to what level of knowledge do any of these morons in Congress have to be making such big decisions? I mean, particularly now when we see people like AOC, and even on the local government level, we have this moron Zoran Mamdani who's trying to become the mayor of New York City. I mean, it becomes an influencer popularity contest to get these people elected to truly important positions that are going to shape the future of millions of people's lives. It's pretty disconcerting, Charles.
Well, actually, yeah. Did you see there was reporting I saw that they tried to? He claims to be another Maltese falcon, like Buttigieg, his father. But when they reporters tried to figure out, what's his real name or what's his real origin, they drew a blank.
Which one?
In Malta.
Zoran?
Yeah, he's from Malta, apparently.
Malta? I thought he's from Uganda.
Well, originally Malta, I think, is what I read.
Yeah, see, this kid is bullshit. He's a real serious problem. Look, he can't keep his hands off of me. Then this thug comes in, hits my camera. He should be arrested for what he was doing there at Tesla. This is an economic attack, is what I said to him. They closed the place down for several days. A lot of people have also been talking about the complete moron who's our current mayor, Eric Adams. He is busily promoting Juneteenth, and he's not saying anything. Everybody's upset about Brad Lander got arrested for obstructing an ICE, their legitimate duty and everything like that, and they're upset that he hasn't said anything about that. He's talking about Juneteenth.
Excuse my, F that. That's ridiculous. Really,
well,
enough
Charles,
of this.
We're going to have a lot of time to talk about Juneteenth and any other kind of teenth.
Circumcision.
Make our way here over to the First Amendment Forum. I want to thank everybody who sponsors the show. If you're not currently sponsoring the show, please do. I've been traveling around a lot lately. I had a very important court hearing today that unfortunately I'm still unable to talk about, but we're days away from me being able to explain to everyone why The hearing that was scheduled for Goodman versus the Allegheny County Medical Examiner's Office had to be continued today. I had another hearing, but I couldn't do all of this counter lawfare work without the sponsorship of the individual viewer sponsors. Now, Odyssey has been unable to reestablish their payments processing, so I'm not getting any payments from anybody who is still on Odyssey, and I appreciate people who are sponsoring there for months, but I hope you'll consider going to another platform like crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com or subscribestar.com or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Of course, people who are subscribed to me on X at JG_CSTT are also sponsoring the show. So thanks to everybody who's doing that. We'll be back in 5 minutes with the First Amendment Forum.